This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
What did you make of Dave's comments yesterday and shaking things up a little bit?
Good morning, guys. They had already done the prelude to this, which was Gage Wood's about to take somebody's job the week before. They just didn't pull the trigger on it, and I personally thought it would have been better to try it last weekend, but here they are, and it's at a difficult venue. A&M at home is, 31-2, so basically the same type of record as Arkansas has at home. Very hard to beat there. But all Arkansas has to do is win one, and the division is theirs, and they'll go into tonight's game with a starter. I mean, they haven't lost a game in Hagen Smith's starts this year, so I think it's a good idea to do it before you reach the postseason. That way you'll know how he handles the prep work, how he handles, you have to have a bigger repertoire of pitches. You have to kind of save yourself a little bit too, if you're Gage Wood. So it's going to be good to see him in that role, and then Molina very likely to be in reserve, a relief role. And who knows what will happen with Brady Tigert. I mean, Dave Van Horn hinted that they might give him this weekend off to rest him up. It's all about maximizing what your roster is going to look like for the postseason. And I don't even mean Hoover on that one. So, I think it's good that they're getting it done before the regular season's over.
Tommy, you mentioned just rest. Like, it might not be an injury just to give his arm a break. How do you balance, if you're a head coach, how do you balance, like, getting someone rest up but not throwing them out of typical baseball rhythm right before the postseason?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I want to say Tigert came back from his rest last year in better form, and we've seen it happen with a few other pitchers. If that's what they feel like is best and necessary for him to be sharper, then it's probably a good idea. And I think from Arkansas' standpoint, if you can just win tonight's game, if they play it, weather allowing, if they can win that one, then they've got the division. And, yeah, you're going to be competitive and you want to win the next two, but it's not as necessary that, if the division was on the line, maybe they want Tiger to try to throw. So, we'll see how that goes. They've got a deep pitching staff, and they've shown that throughout the course of this year. Different guys have risen up, and probably going to be tested this weekend.
Tom Murphy with us on the McClarty Daniel Hotline. Tom, look at the most recent NCAA RPI rankings. The Southeastern Conference has 6 of the top 11. They have, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in the top 25. Who is this weekend biggest for? Those teams that are like in Vanderbilt's position or Florida or maybe even an LSU to try to get in the tournament? Or is it one of these teams that are maybe on the bubble like a Mississippi State or a South Carolina that's maybe trying to play their way into hosting a regional?
That's a good question. It's big for all of those teams, but particularly the ones you just mentioned. I've seen the debates about does Vanderbilt get in over Florida or LSU or just some combination. It's gonna be hard, I think, for all three of those to make it, even though the RPIs are good. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes. But you don't want to be sitting there at 12 and 18 in the SEC because that means you will not have had a great weekend. If you're those three teams, 13 and 17, a little bit better shape. But maybe this is an outlier type year where an SEC team with a good RPI with that kind of conference record does get in because it's such a difficult, just a really hard conference. I mean, but also, Mississippi State, if they can win the series at home or possibly even sweep Missouri, could they host? And they put up a heck of a fight here in Fayetteville last weekend, and they look like a team that's good enough to host a regional.
Is Ole Miss rising to 24 after their weekend with A&M enough, considering their conference record and where they're at in the West, or is Ole Miss a team you've got in, or would you have them out right now?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer. I mean, a committee will say, "Oh, we don't put a cap on the number of teams from any conference, whatever." But Ole Miss it's stunning to think that they're 24 because, Arkansas swept them. They haven't had great series, but for them, winning against A&M was a big deal. And they need to have a great weekend, I would say, this weekend. And I'm not sure who they're playing. Maybe Bama or somebody, but they would need to have a good weekend, I would think, to be in consideration.
I think I could be wrong, McCray. I thought they closed out.
I think they're playing LSU.
Is LSU?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got two teams that are kind of on the brink. Then, if that's who the matchup is, we're talking with Tom Murphy here on the McClarty Daniel Hotline. Tom, A&M has got a lot of power. They've hit over 100 home runs. They hit over 308. I mean, this is not a team to be trifled with. I know they've lost their last two, but Dave just kind of spoke to not just their ballpark and what they've been at home, but just how much of an issue it's going to be with the bats. Does Arkansas change anything when you go up against a team like this, or is it just business as usual what you've been doing?
Well, I think knowing the Dave Van Horn plan over these years, it's you do what you do. You look at the scouting reports, you attack them the way your scouting tells you to attack them, and look for good results. They are a great hitting team. They've done really well at home, but you got to say thanks to LSU and Ole Miss these last 2 weekends, because if they had stayed on the kind of the tear they had been on, then we'd have a much closer race at the top of the West, and A&M possibly would be in the lead. When I saw the upcoming weeks for them, LSU and Ole Miss, I felt like they'd win 4 of those 6. Instead, they won 2 of the 6, which kind of shows you that LSU and Ole Miss are really still in it and battling to get to the end. And Braden Montgomery, Dave Van Horn mentioned yesterday, they really wanted to get him. They recruited him out of high school, Madison, Mississippi, wanted to get him again when he was in the portal, and he wound up at A&M. Just a fantastic power hitter in the 2, 3, 4 spots in their lineup. Laviolette has emerged as one of the better outfielders in the country. A lot of home runs on this team. And then the freshman, I think it's pronounced Grahovic, or something like that, has been a phenomenal addition as well. And then they've got guys like Targek and some other guys that have been around there for a long time, but now they're in more, auxiliary type roles, backup. Well, not backups, but just, they're not as prominent names, but a very, very veteran team. Schlossnagel's built a pretty good monster down there.
Does Hagen Smith get it tonight, Tom? Does he go for 11 strikeouts and break Nick Schmidt's all-time record?
Well, I mean, his average tells you that he will get there. Now, is A&M a big strikeout team? I haven't researched that. But when you're as aggressive as they are and hit as many home runs, they're probably going to be for your swingers. So we shall see. I would put money on that he gets the strikeout record today, and whether Arkansas stays clean on weekend opening games is another matter. It's amazing, they've come back from some deficits to win some Friday games. Hagen Smith's last start wasn't his cleanest, and then the Kentucky game, but they won both of those. So we'll see. And on another tangent here, Dave Van Horn was asked about divisions. They're going away next year, and I really don't like it's going to be a one division conference. It's just, I don't like it. I wish they weren't doing it for football either, but here we are. It's just whatever the trend is now, and it's like Houston Nutt. I talked to him about conferences going away in football. Not a fan of it, man. There's something to be said for even winning division titles in a conference as powerful as the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, just think about Arkansas football there with Houston. I mean, 98, 02, and 06, we celebrate the SEC. This football team's never won an SEC title. They won the West 3 times, and that's a difficult task, Tom. We celebrate that all these years later.
Exactly, and it's just going away. I mean, if you finish, let's say you're 3rd or 4th in the SEC football next year, well, given a division separation, you might have been challenging to win the division. I don't like it. I don't know what there is to reverse the trend, but what are you going to do? You're going to bang your head against the wall? I mean, I don't like the current state of the NIL or a lot of other things that are happening in college football, but it just is what it is.
Yeah. And we had Sam Pibbin on in the last hour, and the one Razorback Roadshow is going on. He was in Jonesboro a couple days ago. Hunter Yurachek's there. I found it interesting that he made the comments first time he had been there, but you stop and think there's not a lot of times that the AD and a sitting head football coach go to Jonesboro. So, I mean, I find kind of their tour this week and some of the locations they picked. When they talk about trying to engage the entire state, I think they're following it up with where they're going.
Well, yeah, they really did. And, of course, we got the football game coming up next year in Little Rock, too. So it's a different world than it was, when the Frank Broyles mandate or guideline that you don't play in-state schools has gone away. And I guess Arkansas flexing a little bit, showing up in Jonesboro.
Yeah.
And but now that now to me, one of the final pieces for Arkansas, the overall athletic program is very, very competitive in all these sports. It's to get football back on that competitive plane. And how do you get there? I mean, to me, that's the $1 million question for Hunter Yurachek. And obviously NIL and fundraising to that goal is a big part of getting football back up to where, the old-time Arkansas fans are used to them competing in the Southwest Conference every year at the top with Texas. And in recent years in the SEC, that has gone away.
Yeah, and Coach mentioned that Chuck asked him about his calendar and the plans moving forward, and went through those in great detail, but made mention that, hey, I've got to spend my summer fundraising, and that job never ends. And for whoever it is, whether it's Jerry Jones or they find someone else, they've got to find the equivalent of what we at least perceive John Tyson to be for the basketball program. Someone's got to be that for the football program and kind of spearhead the financial needs for football.
Yeah, I mean, and as maybe crass as it sounds to say it, I mean, you got to spend to compete. And I know Arkansas, to the state of Arkansas, it's a proud state. But the idea of just, having to open your wallet like that, in addition to buying, being a contributor, alumni member or whatever, and buying tickets, now it's just a different world. And I think the Arkansas fans have to realize to compete, that's going to have to take place. And you're right. Someone has to come forward.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.